When did you first come to work for TRTA?
June 22nd, 1981.
Okay, 1981. Can you tell us what the office was like back then when you came to work? A bit different?
We had 3 rooms in the TSTA state building on 12th Street.
Okay.
We're still on 12th Street.
Okay, so it was in the TSTA office building. Okay.
They gave us 3 offices. And later on, we paid for 2 more offices because we expanded a bit. And we were there until September 1989.
Okay. How did you hear about TRTA? How were you hired?
Dieta and Russell Sayers, who were on the board. Dieta was the secretary for the board, and Mr. Sayers, Russell was the historian.
Oh, okay.
And we belonged to the German Mineral Society. And I was hosting the meeting, and I always brought coffee and donuts and cookies. And she came up to me and she said, "Do you know anyone interested in the job?" And I said, "Yes, me." So she said, "Okay." And so a couple weeks later, she called me up. My son graduated that year from high school, and we went on a trip. And when we got back, she called me up. She said, "If you want that job, you better get over here." So I came in, and Mr. Gallion interviewed me, and I got the job.
Okay, very good. So then Mr. Gallion was your first executive director, right? He was your first boss. Okay.
Yes.
Can you tell us about any of your special memories of working with him? Tell us about him.
He was a person that didn't need much sleep. He'd get up at 3 in the morning. He'd come to the office. He'd write his letters, and then I'd come in. The office opened at 8:30 at that time, and I'd come in, and I would type up his letters, and he'd go over to the legislature every day and make his rounds. And then he'd come back, sign his letters, and go home unless there was a certain meeting or something. And he did that every day. But he went to the legislature every day.
How long was he the director here? Do you remember?
1980. Our TRTA had an office starting in June 1980.
Okay.
And and he took no money for that. He maybe some expenses for his car. He told me he wore out 3 cars running around. He was very active, visiting the locals. They loved him. And he did that until, I think, 93. And then he became Executive Director Emeritus.
It's good to know a little bit about him and some of your memories because of the award, that we give every year at the state convention. And I know that there are quite a few of the new retirees don't know anything about him, or who he is. So this way they can see his portrait, see what he looks like, and then hear that you started working with him, right when he started. And got to know him quite well. And I know you have fond memories and you really admired him very much.
Yes. He'd come back and he said, "I've been beat up, knocked down, but I'm going back." And then, of course, he worked with TRS also. Bruce Heinemann was the executive director at that time. And so they were close friends and worked together. And at that time, TRS could lobby. So there was Joanne Holshauser and others that worked with us, and they'd go over as a committee together. And even though he was Executive Director Emeritus, he worked right up to 1993. The last convention he went to was in College Station. Okay. We went together. He drove at the Hilton there. So he worked right up to the moment.
Right. Well, I know you have fond memories, and I'm really glad that you're sharing them with all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is one of my favorite pictures of all of the ones that you found, and I would like you to tell us a little bit about who this is and where you are. What's the significance of that picture?
This is a picture of me, and it's in the 1996, my first computer, and we were in the TASA building. And so Mike, the joke was, I had never worked on a computer, and he come in and he said, "You got it all figured out now?" He wanted to do a letter. So actually I went to ACC and took a quick course on how to turn on a computer.
So pretty soon you were the expert, weren't you?
Well, I'm learning every day.
You all about this program.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
What is this?
This was my first project. Dr. Kate Bell, who is the new president, handed me all her notes, and I typed this up, this book.
Wow.
And we're still using it. I mean, this was convention. How would you say the workings of a convention?
Convention 101.
Yeah, Convention 101.
That's
the
amazing.
guidelines
For a convention.
And you typed all of that.
Yeah, I did.
She didn't have a computer.
All thousand,
Okay.
all thousand of them?
IBM Selectric typewriter. Yes.
How many people were attending
Back then?
back then? Yeah.
In 1982?
Yeah. 36
I
years
don't
ago.
know 82 because I didn't go to that one. That was in Houston at the Shamrock Hilton Hotel. But I went in 83 and that was in Waco. That was the first
I
convention.
bet we could look that up in the history books.
Oh, yeah.
To find out how many. Yeah, see how
That'd
many
be interesting.
Okay.
700. They always had.
Oh,
good
wow.
times.
That's a good
Wow.
job.
I think.
How many members were back then?
When I started, I think 23,000.
Wow. Well, then that's a really good percentage.
amazing.
Yeah, that is.
And then
Well,
they had, many times they had to get to 30,000 and then 50,000.
And now 100,000.
That's the goal.
Those were the goals.
Yeah, that's awesome.